All right, let's get real for a second. Imagine walking into a bank, applying for a loan or a credit card, and the banker says, "Wow, you got a perfect 850 credit score. We'll give you whatever you want." Feels pretty good, right? Well, today I'm going to show you exactly how you can get that perfect 850 score, or as close to it as humanly possible. And no, this isn't one of those quick fix, shortcut schemes. I'm talking real actionable steps based on how the credit system works. And the best part, well, you can do all of this without spending a single dime if you follow these strategies closely. But before we dive in, let me ask you something. How much do you really know about your credit score? Because what I'm about to reveal might surprise you. And by the time we're done, you'll have a blueprint to hit that perfect 850 score. Okay, so first things first. How is your credit score actually calculated? Well, the formula is a bit like a secret recipe, but we know it boils down to five key ingredients: payment history, 35% of your score; credit utilization, 30%; length of credit history, 15%; new credit inquiries, 10%; and your credit mix, also 10%. Now let's break down each one of with actionable steps that you can take to get that perfect score. It's like baking a cake. You just can't skip the sugar or it's going to taste really bad. Every single part of it is important. So the first piece of the puzzle is payment history, and this is where most people slip up. Missing a payment even once can actually tank your score, and that black mark stays on your report for up to 7 years. So, what's the actionable steps here? Well, simple: never, ever, ever miss a payment. And here's how you can make sure that happens: set up automatic payments on all your credit cards, your loans, and your bills. Now, if you're afraid of overdrawing your account, at least set the auto pay for the minimum payment. If you're struggling with cash flow, prioritize your payments. Always pay your credit accounts first because these impact your score the most. If you're a little late on a utility bill, it won't directly hurt your credit score, but missing a credit card payment absolutely will. So let me give you a real world example. John always made sure his rent, utilities, and credit card payments were on time. But one month, he forgot to pay his $25 store credit card bill. And guess what? His credit score dropped by a huge 40 points, all for a $25 slip up. So that's like ordering a pizza and tipping the delivery guy with pennies. It just doesn't feel right. So the good news, by setting up auto pay, you can avoid that pain altogether. Now, let's talk about credit utilization, and this is a big one. This refers to how much of your available credit you're using at any given time. And ideally, you want to stay below 10% utilization. So, what does that actually mean? Well, let's say you have a credit card with a $10,000 limit. To hit that perfect credit utilization ratio, you want your balance to stay under 1,000. Now, I know that sounds hard, but here are some tricks to help you along the way. Firstly, request credit limit increases. If you've been with a credit card company for more than 6 months and you've never missed a payment, you're likely eligible for a credit limit increase. If they bump your limit from 10,000 to 15,000, guess what? Now you carry a balance of 1,500 and still stay under that 10%. Also, pay your credit cards twice a month. Even if you're not carrying a balance, make a payment before the statement closing date. This lowers your reported balance, which of course lowers your utilization ratio when credit bureaus actually calculate your score. So let's take a look at Sarah. She was carrying a balance of $5,000 on a card with a $10,000 limit. By simply asking for a credit limit increase to 20,000 and paying her balance twice a month, she cut her utilization down from 50% to 12% in just a couple of months. Her score jumped 65 points in 3 months, and that's the power of credit utilization. It's just like cleaning your house before the landlord shows up. Make sure it's spotless. Now, Here's something people don't think about enough: the length of your credit history. It makes up 15% of your score, so believe me, it's a pretty big deal. One major mistake people make is closing old credit card accounts, especially if they've had them for years. Now, when you close an old account, you're shortening your average credit history, which can really hurt your score. So here's the strategy: keep those old accounts open. Even if you're not using them, keep the accounts active. Just charge a small amount every now and then, maybe like a Netflix subscription, and pay it off each month. Let's take Mark as an example of this. He had a credit card for 10 years but wasn't using it anymore, so he decided to close it. Big mistake. That card was anchoring his credit history, and when he closed it, his average credit length dropped and his score went down 30 points overnight. Moral of the story: old credit is gold credit. Now let's talk about new credit inquiries. That's when a lender pulls your credit report because you've applied for a new card or a loan. These inquiries can lower your score by a few points each time. And by the way, they stay on your report for 2 years. The solution: don't apply for unnecessary credit. And here's a real world tip: if you're shopping around for a mortgage or a car loan, try to do it all in a short period, say within 14 to 45 days, depending on the credit scoring model. During this window, all the inquiries will be counted as a single inquiry, maximizing the impact on your score. Now, an example of this is Maria. She applied for a mortgage in January, a car loan in February, and a new credit card in March. That's three separate hard inquiries, which ended up knocking her score down by 15 points. If she'd have bundled all these applications together in the same month, she could have saved herself a hit on her score. So, finally, let's talk about credit mix. This makes up 10% of your score and looks at how many different types of credit you actually have: credit cards, car loans, mortgages, personal loans, etc. etc. The more diverse your credit mix, the better your score. But I'm not saying you should go out and take a car loan just for the sake of diversity. Instead, if you've only got credit cards, consider opening up a small personal loan or even a secured loans. These are relatively low risk options that can add to your credit mix, and they can boost your score. For example, Tina, she had three credit cards but no loans. By taking out a small $1,000 personal loan, which she actually paid off in a couple of months, she added diversity to her credit point profile and saw a 15-point boost just by diversifying. It's like a balanced diet. You can't live on just pizza as much as we'd all love to. So here's the thing about hitting an 850: it doesn't happen overnight. You need to be consistent, patient, and strategic. Keep making on time payments, managing your credit utilization, and letting your credit accounts age like fine wine. So, again, let's look at Jessica. Started with a 600 credit score, and by following these strategies for about 15 months, she worked her way up to 835. That's close enough to perfect that lenders practically roll out the red carpet for her. All right. Before we move on, here's one critical piece of advice: regularly check your credit report. Look, even if you're doing everything right, paying your bills on time, keeping your credit utilization low, diversifying your accounts, your score could still take a hit because of an error on your credit report. So get your free credit reports from the three major bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and you can get them at annualcreditreport.com. Now, you're entitled to one free report for each bureau every 12 months. Once you got it, check your errors, like accounts you don't recognize, incorrect late payments, or balances that just don't look right. Believe it or not, one in five people have errors on their credit report that can negatively impact their score. So now you've found the errors, dispute them. It's a straightforward process, and if the credit bureau agrees, they'll fix it and your credit score could jump. A client of mine, Sandra, saw her score increase by 75 points after she discovered an erroneous collection account that wasn't even hers. It's like kind of finding out you were charged twice for your burger. You wouldn't let that slide, would you? So don't let credit report errors slip by either. Now, here's a pro tip for those of you who want to take your score to the next level. Become an authorized user on someone else's credit account. This is especially useful if you're newer to credit or say you've had a rocky credit history. And here's how it works. If you've got a family member or a close friend with a strong, long standing credit account, ask them to add you as an authorized user. Now, what this does is it allows their positive credit behavior to be reflected on your report. You essentially borrow their credit history, which can give your score a serious boost. Lisa, a friend of mine, had a credit score of 650, but after her mum added her as an authorized user on a 15-year-old credit card, Lisa's score increased by an incredible 80 points in just 3 months. It's kind of like being friends with a popular kid in high school. You benefit from their good reputation. So let's circle back to credit utilization because there's a trick here that not many people know about. It's all about timing. Most people assume that as long as they pay off their balances by a due date, they're golden. But here's the catch. Your credit card issuer reports your balance to the credit bureaus before your due date, usually around the statement closing date. So, to really keep your utilization low, pay off a large chunk of your balance before your statement closing date, not just your payment due date. This way, the amount reported to the bureaus is much lower, which can significantly improve your utilization ratio. Now, another common misconception I hear all the time is I should avoid using credit cards because I don't want to risk my score. Wrong. Credit cards, when used responsibly, are your best tool for building and maintaining a high score. The key is knowing how to use them properly. Use your credit cards regularly, but always pay them off in full. Try not to carry a balance because credit scoring models love to see regular and responsible use of credit. So avoid maxing out your card, even if you plan to pay it off. Keeping your spending low, ideally under 10%, will keep your score healthy. So there you have it, the blueprint for getting that perfect 850 score. It's all about knowing the system, playing it smart, and having the patience to see it through. And remember, getting an 850 score is like running a marathon, not a sprint. And hey, who doesn't love a good marathon? So, as always, thanks for watching. And as always, if you do need a helping hand with your credit, Compassionate Credit Repair is just a call away. Have a wonderful day and thanks for watching.